What's good, y'all? We're here, episode 20 of Catch and Counter. We're here better than ever before. Me and Nibs, we've been rocking this Friday thing for 20 episodes now, and figured for the 20th episode, we got to bring in our guy, Dakota. It's the least we could do. He did kind of come up with the whole show name, so the least we could do is have him on for the 20th episode. So, fellas, how we doing? It's been a little bit. We've been off for a few weeks, but we're back at it. So, how are you guys doing?
It's always good to see my sons, bro.
Where are they? Where are they then right now?
No, it's good to see you, boys. Always good to be on this show.
I didn't know you had jungle fever, Dakota. I didn't know that.
Jesus, fuck, dude. You're gonna end my career tonight.
Yeah. Starting off with a bang. Here we go. We got Lukey in the building. We got Jesus in the building. Jesus, we've been having some things going on, but we're back at it for you. So this going forward every single Friday, most likely we'll be back at it for you. So
well, and great jumping off point, Jack. Right? You missed one episode because you and I were at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. So we'll put that into the mix right now. So we were at the MSG Theater with and as Felix mentioned too, Felix, we got the Catch and Counter merch. Don't ask Nibs about his shirt because unfortunately somehow I don't know if it got lost in the mail. You guys gotta ask Felix about that, but we shall figure that out. But he'll be looking fresh with me next week. But we had to show that out. We do got our ITR whole store is gonna be coming out in March. We think with all of each one of us are gonna have a shop with some merch and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for that. Felix has been working on that, and we got right here. We need Nibs and NYC for a fight weekend. I think we could maybe work something like that out at some point. So
you done said it, and now it's gonna happen.
Yeah, so here we go. So we'll tie that into the NYC fight weekend that me and Dakota were just at. My guy Abraham Nova fought Shaki Foster, and it was cool. I know Dakota was there for most of the fight week. I was there for the weigh-ins and the fight night, but it was cool to especially have the personal connection to a guy. I've worked a lot with him and been around him a lot in this camp. So even though it came up short, he lost a split decision. I think it was still a great performance for him. I think that he proved a lot of people kind of counted him out after the Robesi fight, and he kind of proved that he belongs at the world level, and I think he's going to stay for a bunch of years to come. So I know that he wanted to win, obviously, but definitely some good things that he can take away from that. So Dakota, just touch on quickly some of the experiences that you had and also what you thought about Fight Night at MSG.
Well, the first thing I want to say about Nova, too, like you said after the Robesi fight, I think the way he's fought before and after that fight has proven that was both just a great performance from Robesi and an anomaly, right? He was very weight drained for that fight. He did have COVID directly before the fight. So there were legitimate reasons for that performance. And I think when you fight the best guy at 130 and you keep it that close for 9-10 rounds, I don't think anybody loses in that situation. I think the thing about that whole week that was really cool was seeing Shock's composure. I was just really impressed with it, man. I'm impressed with how he carries himself as a champion. And you've seen this, Jack. When you're in the room, you get a kind of a vibe for what energy guys are putting out. I hate to sound new agey, but you really do when you're around people. You see if they're nervous. You see if they're sweating. You see if they're dry from the weight cut. You see things that you don't see when you're not there in person. And I'm just really impressed with how Shock holds himself as a champ. I think it says everything about Nova that, he did win probably 4 or 5 rounds of that fight and made it very competitive. The knockdown was the difference maker. But yeah, man, that was a great experience.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Honestly, I had met Shushu Carrington before last year, but it was cool. We kind of got to talk to him quickly.
We got him on the move.
Yeah, he's a real good dude too. Cause like I had said to people before, just that he was on his way out, so he could have said, "Oh no, next time," something like that. But he gave us his time and he gave us real answers and everything like that. So that was cool. He had a hell of a knockout too. But Nibs, what'd you think about just that whole fight card? Because there were a good amount of fights on there, and especially the main event that we had.
I think overall the card was actually damn exciting. You know what I mean? But you knew that though. Like when you see the lineup for what they had, it was like, yo, this is gonna be a legit ass night of boxing, right? We had some knockouts, we had some good back and forths. Even, in the main event, even though our guy Nova got knocked down, in the 12th round. And to be honest with you, up until then, I didn't know who was winning that fight. Like it was close as shit. I had him up. I think I had him up. But then with the knockdown, I was like, oh, it's a draw. He ends up losing because of the knockdown, right? If he doesn't get that knockdown, he gets a draw. They might run it back. Who knows? But it's indicative of how the whole time up to the fight, even when we had him on catch and counter, I was going back and forth because I rock with them both, right? Like I'm a huge fan of Shock just off of what he's done. I've never met him, never interviewed him, but I'm a huge fan of what Shock does.
He's a cool character, man. He's a cool
Bro,
character.
He's got all the tools, bro. And then, like he said, in he said this in a couple of interviews actually. He's a 12-round fighter, right? So you got to pack a lunchbox and get ready and a hard hat and all that because you can get, like you said, 3, 4, 5 rounds on him, but them last 7, he's gonna be in your ass. You know what I mean?
The thing that's actually really impressive about him to me is like, and actually when Jack, I don't know if you remember this, but I felt like we were all at press row kind of scoring it together, and it seemed like everyone sort of had it as an 8-4, 9-3 kind of fight. But at some point, we all had it 5-4 one way or the other. And the thing about Shock is he doesn't even really get going until like the 9th round, but he keeps it even with really good fighters up until that point, and then he just pulls away. And now he's done it like 3 times in a row. And I really do think that's his approach. He kind of hangs out in the weeds. He keeps it even. And then when we get down the home stretch and it's time to separate, he just takes off. And whereas most guys are, their energy's coming down. It's not going up.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned too, a lot of swing rounds in that fight. How many rounds were we looking to the side and being like, who won that round?
At least 3. At least
rounds.
3.
And that's when you get the swing of the scorecards. If you give all those rounds to Abraham, you could see being a very close fight, maybe going his way, and the rounds going to Shock, then you see it going Shock's way. But I love Abraham. I did think Shock did enough, especially with the knockdown, to win the fight. And I want to give that dude his credit too. I know I put a tweet out before the week. Obviously, I rock with Abraham because I know him and his camp, Mark, and all those guys in the team. But Shock's a great fighter too. He's the epitome of what a champion is in boxing, what he's been able to overcome in his life and also in the boxing ring. The politics in boxing held him back for years, and he's now able to do what he is and now being the number 1 guy in the weight class. And the dude like you said, dude just finds a way to win. And Abraham had the heart of a champion. Abraham wasn't going anywhere. You could tell he was getting tired. He threw over 100 punches still in that 11th round, just trying to do everything that he could to win the fight. And I think if against anybody else in that division, he probably wins that fight that night. I think he looked that good in there, and I think that's what's going to help him out going forward too. Just the experience. He'd never been 12 rounds before, so the experience of learning from that fight, dude's going to come back a beast. I can guarantee you all that.
Well, and he fought well enough that all it would take really is like one quality win, and he's probably back in the title picture. It's not going to take a lot.
Mm-hmm. No,
I mean, look, Dakota Jack can attest to this. When we had him on the right before the fight, I told him, I said, if depending on how he comes out, he might be able to stop Shock in 4 or 5 rounds. To me, that was his best option to winning. You know what I mean? Like I had him winning, but I was like, if you can go hard in the paint for them first 4 or 5 rounds, Shock is there to be hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I actually was impressed with Abraham's restraint though, because I feel like if he had gone that hard, he would have definitely gotten caught.
Right.
Like the fact that he kind of kept it on the end of the jab actually threw Shock off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I'm on the reverse. I think he needed to go all gas because I thought, to be honest with you, and I should have told him this when we had him on. I said, to be honest with you, if it goes 12, you're gonna lose. But I said, in my mind, I'm like, look, 4 or 5 rounds, you might be able to stop this cat because he has that kind of power. Nova's got legit power, right?
Yeah.
But Shock, to his credit, bro, he did what he does. He figured him out, boxed his ass off. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was a flash knockdown, still a knockdown though. In the 12th round, he did what he had to do to get his shit.
And did it injured, bro, and did it injured against a great fighter.
And I'm here to tell you, Shock is a pound for pound guy. I still stand on business and say I still think Nova can be a pound for pound kind of guy because if he gets his wind up, like if he can get his wind up, get that stamina, that 12 round stamina, he's a problem for a lot of motherfuckers, man.
Bro, Nova versus Hobson Conceição to me is the fight, without a doubt.
That's a great fight. I'd like that for sure. That's a perfect fight. Both guys are in the same kind of spot, like a title eliminator kind of fight.
It's also just honestly one of the best fights in the weight class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, title or not on the line, 100%. Two top dudes. Two top dudes who've been willing to fight the other top guys too. But I want to give my guy Mark DeLuca some credit too. I know Dakota got to speak with him on Fight Week 2, but he's just the perfect trainer. A guy that some people are fans of former fighters who are trainers, and he's still a current fighter. But some people aren't fans of it. But I think he's the example of what you want to see in a former fighter who's a trainer. He was a Marine also, so he's very disciplined in his training camp, and you see he had Abraham ready to go. He had the best version of Abraham that he could have put out there. Matt Ryan and Hector Bermudez both did a great job in the corner too. And I think that, as you said, Dakota, and as you said a bit, Nibs, too, where they wanted to kind of press Shock, but they didn't want to go. They wanted to still be tactical with their approach. And I think that that's exactly what they did. And I think in that fourth round, you saw it really kind of work. It made Shock really uncomfortable. And I think that Mark was able to, even though they didn't come out on top, do the necessary things to help Abraham get to the finish line and win as many rounds as they could. Even, I don't know if you guys heard the speech going into that final round. But even that was just some hardcore shit talking about just all real stuff.
Some Rocky shit.
All the sacrifices that he's made, all the people that counted him out, all those things. So I'm very happy with just that night in general, knowing that those guys did everything. They left no stones unturned. They all gave it 100%, and they did the best that they could. There's no regrets, no anything like that from any of those dudes. I hope at least, because they really did give it their all.
What do you think's next for Shot now that he done won?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, having spoken to him, I do think at some point he will move up in weight. I think that he has full intention of kind of getting in the mix at 135 and 140. He's definitely a big enough guy to do it. He's got the frame for it, without a doubt. What's next immediately? I don't know. It's tough because Navarrete is moving up. And I think the division as a whole is sort of in flux. So what would be immediately next for him is a little unclear to me.
The one fight that I think that I know he's talked about too would be the winner of Liam Wilson and Oscar Valdez. Which, if he's not able to get that winner, I'd like to see Abraham in with the winner. I'd like to see Abraham in with the loser of that fight. So, like, all those guys, I want to see them continue to mix up, title or no title on the line. So I think he could look for the winner of that fight. If not, I'd like to see Abe with the winner of that fight or loser of that fight for sure, depending on how it plays out.
I'm just going to put it out there. Maybe this is a little bit of a pipe dream, but if for whatever reason Tank Davis can't get this fight together with Frank Martin, with everyone else being occupied, I think Shock is a perfectly good candidate.
Hell yeah, I'm sure he'd take it too. So.
I'd pay to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'd have Tank winning just about against anybody, really. But I think Shock could give him some real fucking problems, though. Some real problems, bro.
Maybe Shakur, right? Shakur can't get a fight. Maybe that's a fight that they can put together. It's like two guys that nobody's, saying me.
You mean Shakur?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That one, yep, I know. I know.
I mean, to be honest with you, Shakur fucked himself over in his last fight, bro. Like nobody's clamoring to see him fight anybody until he puts on a show. And I know it's unfair to him because he's got elite skills that make these fights boring or whatever. But
and gets Jamel Herring, he put on a show. There's been fights where he's put on a show.
What I was gonna say is that the good thing about boxing is you're as good as your last fight. So against Herring, against Valdez, too, people forget he was on the front foot against Valdez, really putting it on Oscar, throwing a lot of punches and stuff. So I think, let's say, if he were to fight a Navarrete or someone next, I think he'd look like $1 million. He'd be offensively throwing a lot of punches, and people would forget about that last performance. So he's just got to get matched right the next way. But I think that he'll be. I know how it feels in the moment after that performance, but I think he'll be back. One good performance, and everyone will forget about it.
One quick note about the card. I think it's time for Pedrazas to hang it up, bro. I just want to mention that. I think it's time. I think he doesn't have anything left to prove, and I don't want to see. I was a fan of Pedrazas on his comeback after the Tank fight. I don't think he has anything.
That was on the Tiafimo card.
Yeah, which he wasn't on because me and him were on.
Well, I'm just throwing that out there. Pedrazas needs to hang it.
Yeah,
I agree. He definitely needs to never fight at 135 again because he didn't look like he could react. Jack, your pops is asking about Guido Vianello, who I thought was sensational and kind of put everything together, right? We've seen some of the boxing skills. We've seen some of the footwork and the athleticism. We haven't really seen it all come together at one time. And this was the first time I thought he looked dangerous. I thought he's looked decent before. He was even winning against Johnny Rice, but he's never looked dangerous. And I think this fight kind of elevates him to a different place. I believe he's going to fight F.A. Ajagba next.
Yeah, he is, which I like that fight. Even when we didn't get to talk to Guido, but he did seem locked in. Something a little different about him this fight week too, just on edge, but on edge in a good way, kind of
In
ready to
great
go.
shape.
Yeah, Moses Johnson ain't no scrub either, and he's a good, legit regional level heavyweight who's given other guys some good work. But and was it 4 or 5 knockdowns? I don't know if the ref had like a decision bet on that fight or something like that, but
It
he was
just
letting
felt
that
like
fight go on way too long.
it felt like he felt like that Guido fouled the guy on the way down, and so he was just giving him more chances than it probably deserved.
Yeah.
That was my interpretation, at least.
Did you see
Yeah.
that fight by chance, Nibs, or?
I thought dude got his ass whipped. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Guido is going to get whether you fucking with him or not. I do, but I think no matter what you think of him, I think he's now put himself in a position where it's money or bust, and you know what I'm saying. He's got to stop fighting these layups, bro. I want to see him in there against somebody that's going to really put some hair on his chest.
I mean,
That's
listen,
just
it's been in with him and Johnny Rice and what was there was one guy.
yeah. Cut that out.
Yeah.
Let's
What you're looking
let's
for is the
get
fight
it.
he's got next. What you're looking for is if he's gonna fight FA next. I think that's the kind of fight that you're looking for to see exactly the level he's
Exactly.
on. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
Also, I think at a certain point you got to just see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I think that if I was a betting man, I'd bet on him against FA. And I know a lot of people are going to say that's crazy, considering what FA's accomplished so far. But I'm here to tell you, man, I think this dude's got he's got the legit goods to keep it moving. He's not just a one-trick pony either. Like I don't think people.
Yeah. He's
You
much
know,
more.
a lot of times you see dudes get knockouts and they go, "Oh, well, that's all he's got." Nah, bro, he's not Berlinka. He's got some shit in the bag.
Yeah, no, real fluid, a pretty good athlete for his size too. So I'm interested to see how he looks against a guy like FA. Perfect timing for I think him to get that kind of fight. He's just, as Dakota said, just putting everything together right now too.
Yeah, and listen, bro, you take one loss, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. It's really not. You can just learn from it and get better, and people still want to see a fight.
Depending on what that loss is, bro, it's got to be a good loss. It can't be against one of these cab drivers.
Listen, bro, that's a great point because it's like Robesi is a great fighter, and the Nova fight was what it was, and Abraham has responded in every way that you'd want him to.
Yeah.
Shock's got 2 losses too. I mean, both those guys were the epitome of guys who have taken losses and came in better because of it.
You look at it's the way you lose, and I say this all the time for guys who got losses, right? What's the dude that fought Munguia that's got like 4 or 5 losses again? I keep fucking up his name.
John Ryder, or Derevian?
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But look at who his 5 losses are to.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? You look at Robesi. Yeah, he's got 2 losses, but okay, he got caught cold in his first fight, and then his last fight. You can respect that, right? You look at Nova. Look at who his 2 losses are to, bro. You know what I'm saying? And then, especially after the Robesi fight, he comes back and he's fighting a dude nobody really wants smoke with. Like, you know what I mean? And then he keeps going upwards instead of down. It'd be real easy if you get stopped and then take a cab driver the next fight out. I like to see dudes who come back and they're like, nah, give me a guy. You know what I mean? Give me somebody that can give me some work and is a legit threat. Like, it's not like he was taking a bum either, or a middling guy with a decent record. He's taking a dude that can legitimately put him on his ass if he wanted to. What up, Hybrid? So you look at there's a whole bunch of guys that got 5, 6 losses, but 4 of those 5 losses the world champs. Okay, cool.
We got to remind people sometimes that it's a rite of passage. It doesn't mean that you're not a good fighter. I think that's got used when it's really.
Look at what's his name, Big Bang Zhang. He got 1 loss, but who's his fucking 1 loss to? You know what I'm saying? A real guy, and now he's got a belt. So, hey, even Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce gets knocked out twice, but he gets knocked out against this guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, he can still come back and be all right. He knocked out Joseph Parker in devastating fashion, and that guy just got a dub over Wilder. So you know, it isn't about, you know, how many L's you got on your record. It's who you lost to, and then how you bounce right back. We'll see. I went on a little rant. Sorry about that. My bad.
Nah, you good. Hybrid brought up Pacquiao's an all-time great with several losses. So we're gonna get into now. You said when is the Joe Joyce fight? I think Joyce fight's coming up. I'm not sure. We can find the exact date in a second. But I think he does have kind of a tune-up fight to come back and then to get him back in the mix. But
when you hear the GOAT in boxing, most people say Ali, right? Ali had what, 5, 6 losses? Mm-hmm. Most people can still consider him the GOAT.
Even like this too, it matters how you lose. You can lose on a very good performance. I think that's exactly what we saw with Abraham at past. We're going to see it with a bunch of guys when you challenge yourself against the top level guys. But let's move on now to something that's been going around a lot, circulating through the boxing news. A lot of rumors, a lot of people believe in things, a lot of people not believe in things. But Canelo Alvarez is up in the air on what he's going to do next. Apparently, he might be leaving PBC and Amazon, but then he might be staying on PBC and Amazon. I don't really know what's going on. We never really know until we know. You can kind of look at certain reports here and there. Who knows what you can even trust? But apparently he wants to fight Edgar Berlanga and then Jaime Munguia. The rumor is that Munguia is actually being looked at as the May opponent. Nibs, I'll go to you first. What do you think about just the whole news cycle that this has gone through? And I know we want the Ben Vidz fight, but if the Munguia fight is next, is that a fight that you're okay with?
No. Look, if Canelo's next opponent is unless the name is Benavidez or Crawford, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. The Crawford thing is just kind of a, you know, okay, we'll let that slide, right? Like if there's a guy you're going to fight next that I can let slide, it'll be Crawford. Unless you're fighting Benavidez, I really, really don't want to fucking hear it. I'll let the Bud thing go just because it's kind of a fantasy fight. You know, we'll all watch it. You know what I mean? Especially if Bud can pull some shit off. But let's face it, bro. I think those are kind of cop-out fights, if I'm being honest with you. Munguia, you know, it'll probably be a good fight for as long as Canelo will want it to last. But let's be real clear. Him fighting Berlanga next, somebody call 911, bro. Like, he finna murk that boy. Like, he's going to hurt Berlanga bad. I don't think Berlanga could beat the version of Charlo that just got beat by Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know I'm gonna catch some shit about being a hater and all this other here stuff. There's levels to this game for a reason, bro. I don't think that Berlanga's on anywhere near Canelo's atmosphere. No matter what you think of Canelo and what his abilities are or are not, he's still a universe away as far as talent goes to Berlanga, bro. So I just don't want to see that. To me, it's got to be Benavidez next.
Gordo, what are your thoughts?
So I agree with everything you just said, Nibs, but I think there's two other factors that have to be taken into account, and that is that the current state of PBC and how they distribute their fights is not established. They have one card lined up. Maybe there's a second one now with Tank and Frank Martin, but that would be March and then June. So you got 2 fights lined up between January 1st and June. So that doesn't seem to leave a lot of room or a lot of opportunity for any fights to get made. So unfortunately, I think PBC has put themselves in a position where they don't have a platform to showcase their fighters. And I think if you're Canelo Alvarez, you have to go somewhere that there's a little more stability. And the other defense that I'll make is that Edgar Berlanga is the WBA mandatory. So if we want guys to actually defend their belts, he's actually defending his belts. Is that the fight that I want to see? No fucking way. But in order for him to keep his career moving as the financial powerhouse of boxing, I think that he has to do it away from PBC, who doesn't have a distributor.
And for anybody out there who thought Showtime leaving wasn't going to be a big deal, here you go.
Especially when you don't got a backup plan, especially when it's not, and now that we're done here, we're going to roll this out. It's like they ended that deal and then started figuring it out. So now we've gone since November with no PBC cards. We got no new David Benavidez fights. We got no new David Morrell fights. We got no new anybody other than who's on that Thurman Zoo card. And I think to exclusively put the blame on Canelo for this fight not happening, it's like, Benavidez had to take other fights too, because at what point, does everyone in that company stop waiting around? Now, for me, I'm not as interested in the Munguia Berlanga fights because them two didn't fight each other. If they had fought each other and the winner got Canelo, I'd actually be okay with that.
I agree. To be honest with you, that fight I would be excited about. Munguia versus Berlanga, I'd be excited about that fight.
That's the fight.
I'm not excited about either one of them fighting Canelo at this point, to be honest with you. And then here's the thing. I think you're 100% right? Like, what does PBC do from here? Because I don't know if they're hinging, if they've put all their eggs into the Amazon cart, no pun intended, or are they still trying to shop around to get somebody else to cover all the other shit? Because it seems like Amazon's only going to be willing to cover the big boy pay-per-views. What do you do with the rest of it, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why Showtime was so important, because there were other avenues for those smaller cards or not as big pay-per-views to come off. Whereas now it's like, okay, unless it's a huge fight, you know what I mean? You've got to stack those cards for them to make sense, and they're not even doing that. So I don't know, man. I don't know how we get all these fights.
And by the way, if they are all in with Amazon Prime, they better start announcing fights soon, because now we're about to start month 3 of the calendar year, and have had no fights and have announced one fight.
But one thing I will say on the mandatory side, because at first I thought there were rumors that came out that he was going to be the WBA mandatory, but it's now that because David Morrell is also the regular champion, so like the secondary, like the interim champion basically. So I guess they found out now that Berlanga is actually David Morrell's mandatory, which
even better.
Which even better. I don't think there's a great chance we see that fight happen per se. I'm guessing they're probably going to go another route. I wouldn't blame them per se for that, but hey, I would like to see that fight. And the Munguia fight, that one I'd be a little more okay with. I honestly think that's a sneaky competitive fight, honestly. I think at this point, I just think Munguia throws a lot of volume, and if he's able to kind of speed Canelo up, and Canelo's great at his pace, but if you speed him up a bit, it changes things. I think if Jaime's able to do that, also when you do that, you're open for counter shots, but he's tightened up his defense a little bit recently, so would I rather see the Benavidez fight before that one? 100%, but I'd be more okay with that one being next, if it is next indeed.
I also don't hate Benavidez moving up to light heavyweight and taking a fight with Gvozdyk, who I think might be the third best guy at the weight at the moment.
I think Benavidez has done it once at 168, bro. I think once he gets up there, there's no turning back. To be honest with you, because look at the dude's size, bro. Like, you know what I mean? He should be fighting at 175 anyway. He could probably get up to cruiserweight, without blinking an eye. You know what I mean? So then that leaves us, okay, now that he's going up to 175, what's the reality that we get him and Canelo anytime soon, bro? Because, is Canelo really going to go? Would Canelo go up to fight him at 170, 175? I don't think that's going to happen either. So it puts us in a limbo where it's like, okay, well, now we have to settle for these fights we might not necessarily want to get.
Let's talk about some of these people's comments here. We got a bunch of great comments.
Let's go to this one that we have right here. Benavidez said that he would not go to DAZN for the Canelo fight. What do you guys think about that? I don't know if that's a contractual thing that Benavidez has locked into his contract. Otherwise, I don't know what advice he's getting. So I don't know how that goes into it. You'd hope that he would, and I'd assume that if he had an option to go over there, I would hope that they would choose to go over there and make the fight happen. I'm not sure contractually if he has to be or not. But I did want to say quickly about the Benavidez-Gvozdyk fight is I do like that fight too. Problem is, what we were saying on your shows, it's a fight where it's a good fight, but it's not the fight. And I think we're seeing some of that right now, where a lot of these fights are good fights, but they're not the fight that we want. But I do think if he goes up and makes that fight, which I wouldn't be upset at that per se, but I don't think he comes back down to 68 after that. I think he's been busting at the seams at 68 for a while. If he goes up to 75, I think he just stays up there. Which, if he's gonna fight a better Biev or a Bivol after that, then hey, I ain't mad at that.
If he beats Vosdik, he becomes the mandatory for the winner of that
Mm-hmm.
fight. And so, if he's not going to get a Canelo fight in May, I think he was probably just like, well, fuck it, I'm moving up in weight. Fuck this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect timing. Perfect timing. This is the best time for him to go up to 175, bro. You know what I mean?
I mean, I see what you guys are saying about Munguia being a better opponent, but I think that the reason is because Crawford is vastly more experienced against the highest level of his weight neighborhoods.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Munguia beating Bud easily. I don't know about that. He could possibly beat him, but I don't know about easily. I don't know if anybody's beaten Bud easily. You know, yeah, I don't know about that shit. But I will say this, you know, to me, I think Morrell, you know, everybody's saying we're not mentioning him. It's because he's the boogeyman. Nobody wants to fight that dude.
But he also, I think, has some of the same issues as Berlengo, where he did as great as he is on the eye test. I can't point to a win of Morrell's and go, wow, that was a real guy. You know, there's good fighters, but Yamaguchi Falcao is a good fighter. There's good fighters on there, but he doesn't have that marquee win. I got to see a Diego Pacheco. I got to see a Christian Mbili, a Carlos Gongora. I got to see one of these other guys.
Yeah, does he run into Winky Wright, you know, status in the next couple of fights though? You know what I mean? Because of that, like he's fighting those guys because nobody else will fight him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. I think that's the spot he finds himself in, where Boots is kind of in the same spot in a different situation where he's like more known and he's got more experience, but they're both in the spot where guys are saying, okay, you don't deserve this fight because you haven't beaten this guy. Well, it's like, well, if that guy doesn't want to fight me, then what am I supposed to do? Just wait forever for that kind of shot? So I think they're doing it for a reason with Benavidez. I mean, with Morrell, and I don't blame them because that's a bad man right there. So I think we'll have to see what's next for him. I'm hoping he gets a fight announcement coming up soon too, because that's just one of the best dudes, one of the most complete fighters, especially for the experience that he has in the game right now, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it just like, you know, you and Nate said on when we were on Sounds About Right last week. I don't even blame the fighters, bro. I blame these fucking promoters and you know all that other shit, because let's face it, you know, a lot of these fights got made because the fighters got on the phone with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you got that poster behind you, Spence and Bud. How did it fucking get made? They called each other and said, "Hey, let's fucking fight." Tank and Ryan, right? You know, it was like, "Yo, get on the phone. Last year we got spoiled because guys were finally like, well, fuck this. Let me reach out to this dude and say, hey, you want to fight? What do we need to do to make it happen? And then they forced everybody else's hand. Like, let's go.
It's just unfortunately such an anomaly in boxing in this current era that if we get a couple of them, we're like, oh, we're back. But really, if you made the 50 fights you wanted to see in boxing, there's probably 2 of them on the schedule right now. You know?
Yeah. But that's what's fucked up. Like, you know,
we're a cheap date, Nibs. You know, sometimes it doesn't take much to satisfy a boxing fan because we just don't get what we want.
That's the trick sometimes. But I do think we're getting some. I will say one thing is that it doesn't seem likely at this point, but I still have a hard time seeing Canelo and Benavidez not fight each other at some point. I think they both realize the importance for that fight. I know Canelo and Reynoso says that his legacy is already said. He can make the Hall of Fame without fighting Benavidez.
Which he can.
I know Benavidez also knows that, okay, I don't need to wait for Canelo. I can go up to 75 and do great things there, and those are both true. But I think that it would be this generation's fight of like Chavez, De La Hoya, where you have the OG Mexican fighter who's done it all, won in a million different weight classes, and then you have the young Mexican-American or Ecuadorian Mexican-American fighter who's coming up, just the next best guy looking for the passing of the torch moment. So I do hope that is the fight that we get. The politics are going to be interesting as we got here. We're not sure about Benavidez's availability, how he's able to kind of navigate that, but I hope that him and his team are doing everything they can to at least give themselves an opportunity to make that fight. And then the same thing on Canelo's side.
This year has been pretty stagnant for fights. Yeah, I think it's one of the main reasons for that, like I said, is PBC is not announcing fights. And so you have one of 4 major promoters that is pretty much on the bench.
Yeah,
But
so
we
let's
saw
move
this
on.
coming
Okay, no.
when Showtime said they were getting out of here. I don't know about y'all, but I said, "Oh shit!" when that happened, I thought they were fucking around. I was like, "There's no way," because they literally cornered the market when it came to boxing cards. Them getting out is going to make a lot of these fights we wanted to see, or probably could have gotten, just not happen this year, at least this year.
I like this comment too, because you hear a lot of the notion of like this person hasn't earned this fight or earned that fight, and we don't know what's going on in the negotiation side, but just on resume and what you've built up, Ben Vidz with his wins last year over Caleb Plant and Boo Boo Andrade, he did exactly what when Canelo's been looking at for those guys to do. So I'm not sure if that's going to translate into him getting the fight, but where you could have questioned the resume and things a few years ago, that's not the case anymore. And I think that he's basically knocking on that door, and he's without a doubt earned and is the unanimous #1 contender at 168 pounds resume wise.
I mean, there is something to be said to the fact that he's not box office, like some of these other guys are. But at the end of the day, give us one, bro. Give us one we actually want to see.
Yeah, and he might not be himself, but you're telling me him and Canelo as the fight isn't bigger than, which I know you'd agree anyways, but him and Munguia, than him and Jermell was, or than any of these other fights. I think that he might not be box office himself, but him and Canelo sure is box office together, and I think Canelo and his team would realize that too, or they'd have to, I'd assume.
And it'd be a great legacy fight too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? For either guy to be able to say they got that dub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a fact. So instead of talking about these fights that aren't happening, let's talk about a fight that is happening. So it's been kind of a wild week for these guys. We've had Ryan Garcia and we've had Devin Haney.
That was a 10 out of 10 segue, Jack Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like it? Mm-hmm.
That was slick, bro.
And it kind of just happened, but I figured it's the perfect time to kind of move on a little bit. So
smooth.
But a crazy ass week though for those guys. They had a presser in New York, a presser in LA. A lot of shit talking, a lot of for me just out of bounds, just talk that I don't like to hear in boxing. Honestly, I think some of it's been gone way too far, and we can get into that too. But Dakota, I'll go to you first on this one because I went to Nib. So, what were your thoughts on just the whole, just I guess the vibe of the whole presser week? Because to me, there was a lot of weird vibes, and like I said, just some out of bounds comments that I don't agree with, and I don't think there's a place for shit talking in boxing. There ain't a place for I think some of the comments that were made, especially from Garcia's side. But what were your thoughts?
These are the kinds of things generally that like almost make me uncomfortable to talk about. But everything about the Garcia camp right now is a little bit unhinged, bro. Like, and there's a thing like, and I feel like it relates to somebody even like Teofimo Lopez, where it's like he's got the circus coming out with him, and the performance is flat. Like this kid's got 9 girls coming out with him with 18 hula hoops. And fucking, he's got a gold throne, and he comes out, and honestly, he talks like a child, and he has no attention span, and he's fucking cringe. And his father is kind of a schmuck, and he's clearly has no sense of professionalism, and it's honestly a little bit shocking that they are so unprepared and without any sense of class in what is a huge moment for his career. And it doesn't feel like a young man arriving in his moment. It feels like we're watching a fucking like car crash on World Star Hip Hop.
Yeah, he stays talking reckless, bro. The things he was saying about like the religion and all that, early on.
He talks about his personal relationships with women on Instagram, and he's very public about like and maybe it's like a little bit just like he grew up as a teenager being famous on the internet, and so this is what he knows, but it's starting to come off really fucking weird because he's an adult.
I just think it's that. I think you hit it right on the head. He's a very huge internet personality, right? He's more popular on IG than he is in the boxing world. He just so happens to be a really good boxer, right? Who's an IG star. You know what I mean? But he's been getting fights with elite level boxers because of his his online persona and his popularity, and he sells. Let's call it what it is. Ryan Garcia will get asses in the seats, right? That's what got him in the Tank fight. We all saw the levels above him that Tank was in that fight. Like if we were going off of boxing skill alone, they didn't belong in the same building, right? Devin Haney is a universe away, again, from what Ryan Garcia is capable of doing in the ring. And that's no knock on him. He's a really good boxer, right? But he is years away from even trying to contend against a guy like Devin Haney. Devin Haney is on an elite level. Tank, elite level. I think if the fight that should have been made was him and Rolly. I think they're on the same level. They're both really good guys, right? As far as boxing is concerned. But he's a shit person because he hasn't been able to has nobody, or at least it seems like. I can't say this for concrete because I don't know him personally. But it seems like from the outside looking in, he has nobody holding him accountable for any of his actions. There's nobody in his camp saying, "Hey, hold the fuck up, bro."
All the money. He's making all the money, right? So it's like, when you're in a position like that, you don't even have a world title and you're worth more money than just about anyone in boxing. Like, yeah, your dad can just be in public and make racist comments and no one's going to go, "Hey guys, let's fucking take it easy." It's fucked up.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even Floyd said he had people in his camp, his uncle and his dad and his assistant who recently passed away, rest in peace. They would all, after he would say some wild shit, be like, "Hey, bro," you know what I mean? Like, and this is Floyd fucking Mayweather we're talking about. Even he has a hold up person in his camp. There needs to be that person in Ryan Garcia's life. Devin Haney's, I think his was more reactive to what Ryan was saying, but even some of the shit he was saying was just out of bounds. I think, all right, bro, let's figure this out in the ring and let it be that. Devin talking about knocking him out in the first round, I don't think that's going to happen. He might be able to stop him, but
I think internet culture has just made it so that it's like, just do crazy shit and people are going to watch. And I think that somebody like Ryan Garcia, who's grown up in it, has really taken that to heart. For me, as somebody who's been around boxing for 20 years, it almost makes me not want to watch the fight. Honestly, I don't want to put money in his pocket with the way they behave. I don't want to pay him. I'm going to because I'm a huge boxing fan, but it doesn't make me eager to hand Ryan Garcia pay-per-view money.
Yeah, I just didn't like the lack of accountability on their side too. Even when the comment that his dad made, bro. I mean, just to Bill Haney, you can't make that kind. You can't call someone a nappy-headed motherfucker. Like that shit just don't. No matter who you are, where you're from, that's just something you got to know. Derrick James kind of looked to the side, and Derrick James probably wanted to slap him in the face, and he would have been right to slap him in the face right there. So I wonder how the dynamic works with that. Seems like Derrick's kind of get fed up. We know Derrick. Derrick's not into the social media shit. He's not into really talking much. He did it a bit in the build-up for the Spence fight, but that was a different thing. He's not into all this extra stuff, all these name calling, all these ridiculous things. So I wonder how the dynamic of that works, because he's almost a polar opposite personality from those guys, and I don't think that that's a matchup that's going to last long for that exact reason.
Can't take your fans in the ring with you. So you can talk all that shit you want to, but your mouth is writing a check. Your ass is nowhere near funding any of this. So I just hope that Devin Haney takes out whatever aggression he has in the ring.
It's just like these guys could be doing something really positive for the sport here, and it feels like everyone got there and had like a meltdown. And I just don't know who thought that was the appealing way to sell this fight, even to teenagers.
I mean, you look at Bud again. I keep referencing it, and maybe it's because I got to look at it, staring at Jack. But you look at Bud and Spence, bro. They respected each other all the way up to the fight. They both talked a little shit, but it was more of, I'm capable of this, right? So I'm gonna win because I'm this dude. It wasn't, oh, Bud's a piece of shit. Oh, well, Spencer's a piece of shit. There was no degrading. Nobody was talking about nobody's mama. Nobody was talking about anybody's religion or where they come from. It was, I'm a dog. Watch me go, eat. Then they got into the ring and they settled it what it was. They respected each other before and after, and it was one of the biggest fights. Period. Right. We've already proven in the sport of boxing that you can do it the right way and still sell a whole bunch of tickets. You don't have to do all this extra bullshit and be a vile person to be able to get your point across and people to buy into it.
Yeah, the one thing too with this is for all the stuff going on in the Garcia fight, even Adam Hurley mentioned it. The Haneys know how to kind of sell a fight and talk the talk, just like the Regis fight, but they are all the way locked in and dialed in on fight night still. They know how to kind of sell and say
Yeah.
some of those extra things, but the plot never turns away from the end goal. So I think that no matter what happens the rest of this build up, the Haney side I can guarantee will be ready for fight night, and they are looking to punish Ryan Garcia, and there ain't no doubt about that.
Can we take bets on how many times Ryan Garcia turns his back against Devin Haney in this fight? Let's just take bets.
At some point, he probably will. I think the last thing that's probably worth noting on here, and again, I don't even like talking about this shit, but they put this out into the world. I mean, Ryan is admitting to partying during camp.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wants us as boxing fans to take him seriously as an athlete, like I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you don't train hard. I'm not saying for an average regular person you aren't in insane shape, but to beat Devin Haney, I just don't think you can Hennessy and blunt your way to beating Devin Haney, even if you train 6 hours a day.
No. And that's what Devin had said too. Devin said we gotta be Devin was saying basically that's the difference between me and you. We're up here, and even yeah, Devin was talking shit, but he was saying, listen, we're supposed to be the role models for the next generation. We have these huge followings, we have these spotlights on us, and we got to act the right way. So yeah, he'll talk a shit, but he's still looking, trying to, knowing that there's kids behind him looking up to him and shit, and clearly just that wasn't the same way.
Well, and
To
also
Ryan
the
go fight
difference
next
is,
year.
right? Like Ryan Garcia wouldn't be the first partier to be a successful boxer. The difference is part of help, getting people to understand that you're a serious athlete is not being an open book about shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to smoke a blunt before you go to bed, that's not my business. But I never knew what Oscar De La Hoya did in his off hours, and he was doing all kinds of crazy shit. We didn't know what Ray Leonard was doing in his off hours, and he was doing all kinds of crazy shit. And Ryan doesn't respect the fans enough to say, I'm taking you seriously. I'm taking your money seriously. And I'm taking this fight seriously.
We knew what Mike Tyson was doing. I just want to point that out. He had bitches. But I will say this to your point, right? Like, there's a certain point where you've got to shut up and box, bro. And for all of Ryan Garcia's, great advertisement offline or online and outside the boxing ring, he's yet to prove himself to be a big superstar inside the ring. The one opportunity he had, he got dominated, right? Like there was no part of the Tank fight where any of us said, "Oh, he's got a chance," right? It was from beginning to end 100% Tank. It's going to be worse because Devin Haney was a problem at 135. You saw when he fought Prograis, it looks like the move up to 140 has been better for him. Like he's even a more complete fighter, and that was against a world class dude, right?
Champion.
Like that's against a dude most of us thought was shit. I don't know. Prograis is a bad motherfucker, right? I thought Prograis had a shot, like a legit one, and he made Prograis look amateurish. I'm here to tell you, Prograis might have beat Ryan Garcia, that version of him anyway. So we're talking about a guy who completely dominated a guy we think can beat you, and you're talking shit. Okay, bro, you need to shut up and be on your Rocky 3 shit right now, and to be in there trying to fight Devin Haney, and you out here smoking blunts. All right, we'll see.
This is an interesting comment by Hybrid too. We appreciate all y'all in the chat, and this is why we like y'all in the chat because you guys bring up good points. But Hybrid saying, where does Ryan go if he loses this fight, which I believe he will? This is the interesting thing with Ryan because, as we said, he does have the huge following and stuff like that. They're clearly invested in his fights. If he loses the fight the way that a lot of people think he could lose this fight, is it going to be? I know he's got his fans, the younger generation. They might not be boxing fans, but if every time, like you said, Nibs, when they see him step up, if it doesn't go his way and it goes bad, not his way, are they going to really be continuing to click on all of his things and then watch out for all of his notifications, all those things, and look for all of his fights? Because those people are casual boxing fans. They're not in it to see the journey again for him to rebound to go to another title. They basically just want to see him in big fights and they want to see him knock people out. So when you're not doing that at the highest level, I think it's interesting to see where his stardom kind of is it able to carry him in the near future, or how does that turn out if it does go not his way April 20th?
That's a great question about Hybrid, and I'll be honest with you. I think he goes all the way to the bank. I think he's going to the same place Jake Paul is going. Right, win, lose, or draw, people are there to watch him. Right, they like him because of the things he's amassed on social media. Now, if he gets completely whitewashed, like you said, them girls that are watching this fight because they are super fans of his, or the youngsters that are watching him online, they're probably still going to fuck with him. You know what I mean? Does he get will he have to have a couple of interim fights to build his shit back up before he gets another big fight for people to keep fucking with him? Yeah, but that's for guys like you and I. For his followers online, bro, I think he goes all the way to the bank because they're still gonna sign up for it.
I also think that's the one benefit of having the following that he does is he can, even if it decreases substantially, he can leverage that in any endeavor he goes into moving forward. There's a part of me that, like, because his mentality is so fucked up, there's a part of me that's like, you really shouldn't be boxing right now because you don't need to, and you need to go work on yourself a little bit. That's just me.
No, I feel that. We'll move on to this. We'll just spend a few minutes on this real quick just because we mentioned, I think, these guys a little bit earlier, but it seems like Tank Davis
10 million followers, bro. 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, like that's you said, even if he loses half of that, that's still more than most guys out there. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But yeah, so Tank Davis and Frank Martin, it looks like they're gonna fight. June 15th is the rumored day. We'll just really quickly, each of us can give a quick point on this fight, but I'll say real quickly the reason I'm interested in this fight is, again, it's a good fight. It's not the fight we want for Tank, but I think it's an interesting one. Frank Martin, he's looked up and down against Artem, who Artem's a tricky guy, an undefeated Olympic medalist, so he did pull that fight out of the fire with the knockdown late and won. And against Michelle Rivera, Frank Martin looked like $1 million. Michelle Rivera was looked at as a top 10 guy by most guys, and Frank Martin just whitewashed him. So I'm interested to see how Tank deals with the first real legit athlete I think that he's been in the ring with. He's been in with a lot of very good fighters, but I think Frank Martin is the most athletic guy that he's been in the ring with, which is part of the reason I was interested in Shakur fighting Frank Martin, and also when Shakur fought De Los Santos. So there's another great athlete that they were in the ring with, because all those guys, the Devins, the Tiafimos, the Tanks, the Shakurs, they're all great athletes. They all have pretty good feet too. So I want to see how Tank deals with the feet of Frank Martin. And he is the rightful favorite in this fight, but I think Frank Martin is an interesting opponent for him, and I want to just see how he kind of deals with that.
I'll make it brief. It's a fine fight. Frank Martin's a really good fighter. It's pretty typical of Tank to give us like our seventh choice, but it seems kind of par for the course for his career. As he picks a good fight, it's probably the seventh guy you'd pick, if you were picking his fight.
I just want to make one last point on something. If you take Tank, Haney, and Shakur's online followings, Ryan Garcia still beats them. Wow. So I make that point to say those are the three most talented guys in or around his division, and he's got more followers than all three of them put together, or as many. So I think that he'll be able to continue to make money regardless, to Dakota's point, even if half of that falls off.
That is pretty wild. Wow.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the Frank Martin and Tank fight that I find interesting is that if Frank Martin had this in the bag that whole time we were giving him shit for getting out of the Stevenson fight, then this excuses that to some degree, in my opinion. Because I'm like, okay, because let's face it, Fighting Tank is our generation's version of fighting Floyd, right? You hit the lotto if you fight Tank. Let's be real clear. You're going to get more money than you'll get in your entire career by a mile fighting Tank than you would ever fighting Shakur or Devin or anybody else, right? Love it or like it, don't hate it, whatever. So it kind of excuses that to me. On Tank's side of it, I'm like, well, who else is he really going to fight? if he fights Shakur, that fight loses a little bit of luster because of what happened with Shakur's last time out. So he might as well fight a guy that he knows he can beat, still make a shitload of money, and then move on to the next. So I'm not, again, to kind of back up Dakota's point, I'm cool with it because Frank Martin is not a bad opponent. You know what I mean? But it's not the fight I want to see.
Like I said, it's the classic thing of a good fight. It's like just enough that we're okay with it, but it's just enough where we're like, man, if it was just this guy or that guy. But hopefully,
I'm glad he's fighting him and not Pitbull, though. I'd rather see this than Pitbull.
Yep, no, I would agree on that too. So we got comment here from Adam Hurley. We'll just quickly go over. We're about to get on out of here in a few seconds, but we do have some fights this weekend. The first one we'll touch on is a card on DAZN. I know you guys are both like this though, because Jake Paul is on the card, but he is not the headliner. We have Amanda Serrano as the headliner, defending her unified featherweight title, which these are the things we said we've been wanting to see. In Dakota, you've echoed that, Nibs. You guys have both echoed this exact point, so it's good to have you guys both on here. But Jake's in his own lane, which is cool, but you guys were kind of weren't fans of when he had these big time fighters on his undercard. So he's now switched it up. No, and he's still the big money guy, but he's given Amanda the opportunity to fight and to headline. He is fighting Ryan Borland. I know Jonathan Bamba Gonzalez is on the undercard defending his title. Elijah Flores, a good prospect, is on the card also. So what do you guys think about just this card in general? And also, like I say, I got to give Jake Paul props because he's kind of listened to the fans and he's given Amanda, he's already given Amanda 10 times over the shine that she could have possibly dreamed of. But I think it's cool for him to do this when he doesn't have to give her the main event spot, but he is doing it for her.
I mean, I have a ton of respect for him giving up the headliner spot. I think that is an understanding and of his place in boxing and a level of growth the longer he's been in the sport. So I really like and respect and appreciate that. I still struggle to give a shit about his fights, if I'm being brutally honest. Like, I'm just not sure what his trajectory is or what he wants out of boxing. And I'm not personally, like we just talked about, I'm not really interested in character-driven boxing. And so it's just not interesting to me. To what he's done for the last 5 years is not interesting to me. And this fight is not particularly interesting to me just because Ryan has not been particularly active and was a career light heavyweight. So it's, again, there's always this obvious sort of advantage that he has in every fight. At the beginning, it's this guy plays video games, this guy has a hip replacement, this guy's never boxed. There's other advantages. Now when he takes a boxing fight, he's got to have as many advantages as possible. I'm apathetic to it.
I'll say this. Everything Dakota just said is right. When it comes to Jake Paul's boxing career, I'll say this. At least he's now fighting boxers, right?
Absolutely.
There's that.
Absolutely.
So I'll give him that. And it started with Tommy Fury, the one he actually lost but was competitive in. I appreciate the fact that he's now starting to fight boxers because it shows that he's at least trying to take boxing serious at this point. The problem with that is I didn't see or watch any of Deontay Wilder's first 10 fights. I don't want to see or watch his either, on a pay-per-view event anyway. So,
and can we also be honest about the fact that his fights kind of stink? I mean, that fight with Fury was one of the worst boxing matches I can remember ever seeing.
And part of that's Fury too, right? He's not the greatest of all time either. Totally. I think I'm more interested to see what Ashtray does. My boy Ashtray from Euphoria. I think it's Javon Warner is the guy. Yeah, I'm more interested to see what he does in his first fight. But I'll say this though, as a promoter and what he's done for boxing, I have to take my hat off to him because he's done it. Whether you like Jake Paul or not. He's done a lot of good shit for the sport of boxing. I wouldn't say he single-handedly put attention on women's boxing, but he's a big reason a lot of these female fighters are getting the attention, the money, and the fights that they deserve, bro. Shadeja, he's helped her career leaps and bounds. Dakota, you know that more intimately than we do. Amanda Serrano deserves everything she's getting. You know what I mean? As a 7 or 8 division champion, right? She's got more belts than anybody in female boxing has ever had. and she's doing it the right way, bro. She's a clean fighter. She's in here fighting the fights we want to see, and she's got some classics, on her hit list. So if there's anybody more deserving than her, find them, because I don't know. So I appreciate that part. But as far as his boxing matches, to be honest with you, I don't even need to see you on the card, bro. You know what I mean? I don't need to see your fights.
Right. I don't need to see Eddie Hearn lace him up against another 40-year-old man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not. If Jake is a promoter, I have no issue with. Jake being a fighter, I have no issue with. It's just I can't. It's so hard for me to tell. Like, do you want me to talk about you in a serious manner, the way we talk about other professionals? Because you have to do what they do to get that treatment.
Bro, look at if you look at it this way, you take the biggest names in boxing right now: Canelo, Tank, Devin, Shakur, Tyson Fury, all those guys. How many of those guys did you watch any of their fights in the first 10 to 15? Except for Tank, because I think he actually got a title fight in like his 15th or 16th fight. You know what I'm saying?
I enjoy watching developmental fights, but again, none of those guys
on a pay-per-view card.
And none of those guys get to fight wrestlers with hip replacements and Twitch streamers. It's not the same thing, bro.
Yeah, and that's why Jake is starting to kind of get on more of a boxing wave. And I agree with this is why we do the show with y'all, because you guys bring up the exact points I was going to bring up, which is perfect, so I can tie it in. But Jake, as a developmental fighter, is doing, because we can say, this Ryan Borland has been inactive. He's one fight in 6 years, something like that, and he's also moving up in weight. But let's be real. Most of these prospects all around the world are fighting guys who are inactive, guys who are moving up a weight and doing those kind of things. Like you guys did. It's just differentiating the thing of the spotlight he has attracts what should be a main event world-class fighter. And clearly with his experience that he's not that yet. So I actually respect the journey he's taking now, because he doesn't have to, even if he has advantages in these kind of fights, he could go fight KSI or go fight these other YouTubers and keep doing that kind of wave and have done that forever. But he is moving into and he's fighting, even if he has advantages over these boxers, every prospect on the come up has that. The difference is, as you guys said, it's just the exposure and the overall attention he gets, which other guys just don't get at that level.
Jack, I love you like a brother. Really do. Dakota YouTube, man. If either one of you has your pro debut next weekend, I'm not giving you $80 on the pay-per-view to watch it. I'm just saying, and y'all family, right?
Yeah.
But I will say this: do I want to watch it? Of course I do. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come support and all that, because we support local boxing around here. But I am not paying a dime to watch you on. But I will say this though: I understand why he did it. Why did he have himself as the main event? Because he is the show. People
I think it's because he didn't know better. I think he's learned a little bit of grace and has an understanding of what it actually takes now. And I respect.
But to play devil's advocate, right? Like I'm gonna just get on his side for a second. Let's be real clear. Does Shadeja, does Amanda, does do all these fights that he's put on? Do they get the pub that they got if he's not on the card?
No.
So I understand. I mean, he looks like a genius now, even if he did it by accident, right? Like if he was just trying to promote himself, but he looks like a genius now, because now he can sit back and go, I ain't got to do this. Now you're here to see the person that you really should be here to see. So I can appreciate that, again, even if it's a happy accident, because now the people who should be getting the pub and should be getting the attention are actually getting it. And I can't wait to see it.
Yep, and it is cool that he is giving these local kind of guys their big paydays too. Ryan Borland is someone I know. Lukey, who used to be with us, knows him pretty well. I know there's actually videos of Ryan Borland, I think, on our channel right now. Lukey's got documentary stuff on his channel now too. So I do respect that he's given these guys, like a guy like Ryan Borland, who's been working his ass off, I think, in an oil rig for the past 5 years, who stepped away from boxing, is now getting the opportunity of a lifetime. So, like we said, he's got everything against him. I'm sure he's probably already down 4-0 on the scorecards right now. But you just gotta. Those are the guys. But it's easy to root for those guys too. So I'm hoping that he can capitalize as much as he can tomorrow night and kind of make the best of an opportunity like this. So I think that's
Yeah, I'm
about
with you. I
it.
mean,
Mhm.
I think if even if he loses, but he doesn't get knocked out and he makes a good account of himself, he's made some money and he's going to probably get some additional fights off of that. If he gets knocked out quickly, then it'll just be another guy Jake Paul's knocking out. But at least this way, he's got some money to, feed his family and do some things, which I'm always a supporter of. You know what I mean?
That's it.
I'm next. Let's go.
Mhm. Yes, sir. Then we got one more card. Actually, we'll just briefly mention it, but really, really flying under the radar. A sneaky good card. It's a title. It's a doubleheader world title card on Top Rank on I think it's ESPN Plus, not on ESPN. But Luis Alberto Lopez is defending his title against Reina Abe. Then we have Otabek Klomatov against Ray Ford, which is another really sneaky good fight. Troy Isley with Marcos Hernandez on the undercard. We have Floyd Diaz against Edwin Rodriguez on the undercard. Brian Norman on the undercard. Rohan Polanco. Nico Ali Walsh. So it's a solid top rank show. It doesn't have the attention of some of these other cards, but those two title fights are pretty good. Marcos Hernandez, Troy Isley is a good fight too. Dakota, I'll go to you first on this. Do you have any thoughts on just this card or any of these fights? Because I do really like that doubleheader, especially that Klomatov and Roy Ford fight. I think that's a fight that you guys should definitely look out for.
I want to make 3 points real quick. Otabek, Kolmatov, and Ray Ford is a hell of a fight. And the progression that Ray Ford has made and the challenging fights he's taken in his young career, I love watching this guy. And I think that Kolmatov is incredibly dangerous. I think Venado could be maybe the guy at featherweight and maybe even at 130 at some point. The guy he's fighting is unknown, but has a win over Kiko Martinez where he retired Kiko. And the last thing I want to say out this card, man, unfortunately, the guy Luke Chile to pull out of the fight. Nico Ali Walsh. I know he's really sick right now. I don't know why he had to pull out. I feel terrible, but shout out my guy Luke Chile.
Yeah, but I've been lucky enough. We both saw him fight in person. I saw Luke fight in person again too. So I was really excited to see him get this fight. He's somebody who he's worked really hard. Like I said, he's built up a good following around here. So even if it's not that fight, I'm sure he will get another big fight in the future. So I'm hoping he heals up and gets to 100%. But Nibs, you got any thoughts on this undercard? Then I can give my dog wash pick, and then we can kind of get out of here.
You guys are going to give all the technical stuff. I just want to say this. Cash flow, I'm disappointed in you, man. I've been expecting bigger things from him. I want to see him do better against more solid opposition. Based off of what I feel like he kind of sold us a bag of goods and ran off after handing us a bag of rocks. Nico Ali Wash, I kind of felt like he was headed in the right direction. I feel like he's been regressing. So, the bigger names that, should be, that we kind of get hyped up about, I'm not as excited for anymore. Obviously, I think the main event and the co-main event are going to, be what they're going to be, right? Like, for us, this is yay, but everything else is kind of, to me, that's just me.
So these are just the 3 fights that I have on Dog Watch. So I ain't picking against any of these guys, but I'm saying if you're a wagering
We got a
person,
little feedback. We got a little feedback. Nibs, you got mute. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. All right, we back now. But 3 kind of Dog Watch pictures to look out for. So if any of these fighters hear this, I ain't picking against y'all. I'm just saying that it's interesting on the odds. We do believe in you, and we hope that y'all win. Or for your sake, I guess we hope that y'all win. But we shall see. So a few of them. The first one we have is Brian Norman against Boa Chica. I don't want to blow the first name, but Boca Chica against Brian Norman. He is a plus 420. Brian Norman is a minus 650 favorite. Brian Norman's a very good fighter, but Boca Chica is a very good, very serviceable B-side guy. So that's an interesting
That's a
one.
50-50 matchup right there.
Yeah, especially for the odds. And when the odds say it as like a 80-20 matchup, 85-15 matchup, I think it's definitely worth it. Was one more in here too. It was actually your boy Nibs, Cashflow Diaz against Edwin Rodriguez. Don't let Edwin Rodriguez record fool you. He's 12-7-2, but he's been in with a lot of good guys. He's given guys hells of a fight. So Floyd Diaz is a minus 370. Edwin Rodriguez is a plus 280. That's one to watch out for. And then the last one, little more of a deeper pick, but Luis Alberto Lopez is a minus 580. Raya Abe is a plus 520. Luis Alberto Lopez, very good fighter, but a lot of his fights have been close recently. He beat Warrington, he beat Joet Gonzalez, but I thought those fights were both pretty damn close. Abe is kind of unknown. Like you said, he's got the experience, so he beat a guy like Kiko Martinez. So, not saying that any of those three are definitely going to happen, but if you're a betting man, those are three plus money odd picks that I think might be worth throwing a little chunk of change on. Not anything crazy, as we always say, bet responsibly, but if you're looking for a little underdog upset pick, I think those are the ones to look forward to.
Yeah, anything over
Yep.
plus 500, go ahead and throw a little something on it, even if you think the dude's gonna lose. It's always worth it.
Sir, there we go. So that's about it for the show. We touched on a lot of things. It was good to kind of get back in the mixer. I appreciate y'all as always. We appreciate all y'all in the chat for tuning in. But I'm gonna let you guys, because you guys have been doing some good work on your own. So I'm gonna let you guys both plug your stuff. So first, Dakota, plug kind of the slip and weave. Anything you want to plug with that? Anything you're doing or anything like that? Ways for them to access that? Anything you want to shout out in there? Because you haven't been doing that. We haven't been with you on Fridays as much. The Monday crew knows, but kind of let them know what you've been working on with Slip and Weave and everything.
Hey, follow me on Instagram, on YouTube at the Slip and Weave Podcast. Check out mine and Jack's month end awards that we just put up on the website. Check out the Fight Life with Khalil Ko, which is the episode I got to put out last month. At some point, we'll have a second episode in the not too distant future with Khalil, one of the most exciting young guys in boxing. Check me out on Sundays on the Lukey Boxing Show, and I'm out here, bro. I'm out here.
Yes, sir. That sounds about right. And Sounds About Right is also the name of my guy Nib's podcast.
Yes,
I was
sir.
lucky enough that, they let me on. I was excited. I got to go on last weekend with them. We chopped up boxing, football, basketball, a bunch of little things in this. So Nibs, I want you to plug in your Sounds About Right podcast. Anything else you want to tie into that, and then you can take us away with your little local boxing spiel before we get up on out of here.
First off, first things first. I want to give both my co-hosts today their flowers with Dakota and Jack. The work that you guys been doing with the boxers behind the scenes, the videos and things like that you guys been putting out. It's quality shit, bro. We haven't seen that kind of work since the HBO days, and I want both of you guys deserve to pat yourselves on the back. It's award-winning shit. I think that because of you two, ITR is gonna has a real bright future. So I want to thank both of you for that first and foremost.
Appreciate you, brother.
Of course. Sounds about right, man. Fuck with us or fuck off. We've been, we was gone for a little minute. Your boy was sick, so I stuck with just one commitment instead of running myself super thin. But we're back and running, so support the channel. Sounds about right. Jack was on there last week. We dropped the first snippet from his episode talking a little bit of boxing, but he knows a little something about a lot of somethings. So we're gonna, be dropping out some snippets about, baseball, the Super Bowl, the whole 9 yards. The game that got played during Usher's concert, all that. So, mess with us. Dakota is always welcome to come back on. His was probably one of the most, when we had our first run, it was our most watched episode was Dakota's episode. So, and the most watched snippet was his 21 questions. So, come on in and fuck with us. I guarantee you have a good time. We talk about all things, not just boxing. And not just sports. We talk all things entertainment. So there it is.
Yes, sir. And then shout out Nate as well. He's a great co-host with you. You guys do great work. I'm excited. Y'all better go subscribe to those two fellas. That smart dudes. They know a thing or two about a thing or two, as Nib said. But that is it for this week. We will catch y'all all again next Friday. Dakota, are you
Shout
a
out
sharp?
everybody in the chat too.
Yes, sir. Of course. We got Adam Hurley, Hybrid, Jesus. We had Lukey in the building earlier.
Oh yeah.
Everyone, even if there's a few people I probably missed, but we appreciate all y'all. You guys help the show flow. You guys give us little topics and stuff. So we go off on little things sometimes, but it's all for y'all's entertainment. So we appreciate all of that for sure. We might see you guys on Monday. The boxing shop could be back, but either way, we'll be back next Friday. So for now, that is it. We appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Salute to all y'all, and we'll be
Thanks,
back
fellas.
next Friday. Peace out, everyone. Have a good night.